I needed to speak a few minutes about retention because it's dear to my heart. As I said earlier, I was retained in school. There is not a day, I tell you in all seriousness, that I don't think about being retained in school. My parents never spoke about it. It was never mentioned. My parents are now both deceased. I'll never know what they thought about that, what their thinking was, anything. We never talked about it. I remember walking out of school that day and word spread quickly about the red-headed retard. I had more hair, it was redder. But kids are brutal, and I was not a tough kid. I was a skinny little kid. But the two neighbor kids, when I got home, lived right, we lived in those houses that, you had one driveway and you shared a driveway. So the houses were close. And the two boys, one was a year younger than me, one was a year older than me, were making fun of me. And I got like that superhuman strength for like about 30 seconds. And I went over and started beating the daylights out of them. And my father pulled in the driveway and grabbed me by the back of the neck and shirt and pulled me away and asked me why I was fighting. And of course I didn't tell him. But believe me, I didn't even talk about being retained till probably about 5-6 years ago. Never mentioned it. My older children didn't know. I mean, you look at some of the data on retention, and obviously a very high predictor of dropouts. There is data out of the National Dropout Prevention Center as high as somebody who's been retained once in school has a 40% greater chance of dropping out of school. Goes up, you drop out, retained twice goes up to 90%. It's almost a death sentence. We need to know who those kids are. This is fascinating. Children feared retention most after the loss of a parent and going blind. Think about that. Think about the emotional scars. When that study was replicated in 2001, 6th grade students rated grade retention as the single most stressful event in life, higher than loss of parent or going blind. That's pretty compelling data. You can check the source out there if you're interested. Obviously, students experience low self-esteem, low rates of attendance, and so on, all leading to dropping out of school. It's a key predictor. We need to know who those students are. I'm going to talk some more about this. Why retention is a failed intervention. And again, I'll argue with anybody till they're blue in the face on this, and because it's personal for me. There are people who say, I had a guy the other day who I was doing a workshop, and he thinks retention's the best thing that ever happened. Well, he got into the conversation with the wrong person. And, I was very professional and polite, but I just vehemently disagreed. Now, it's like saying no one will ever be incarcerated. I'm not saying no one will ever be retained, but when I think of the staggering numbers, it's the same with the staggering numbers of incarceration. And we know that 3/4 of the people incarcerated in this country are school dropouts or school force-outs. I don't need to read this to you, but the stigma associated with dropping out is significant. And again, I speak from personal experience. I was at this rural elementary school in West Virginia, this district I've been working with, and this one little school of 350 kids retained 24 kids last year. 24 kids, 11 of them were kindergartners. And when I asked them, okay, so what's the plan with these kids retained? There is no plan. Many of them have the same teacher because these are small schools. They don't have many teachers. There's no plan in place. See, that's like going to your doctor and you have some ailment and the doctor gives you some medication. And you take the medication, it doesn't work. And you go back and she says, we'll take some more of the same medication. But it didn't work. But we'll keep trying it though. We'll see, maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll work this time. I mean, that wouldn't make any sense. You wouldn't go back to the same doctor. But we run that same play with these kids. See, to me, that is really educational malpractice. In my opinion, that's educational malpractice. How can you not have a plan for those kids? The moment that child is, you've made the determination to retain that child, what is going to be our plan with that child? What are we going to do differently? How's that child's experience going to be different? Because, again, they shared numbers. I said, I want the names. I want you to look at the names. I want everybody to see the names. I want somebody, what kind of mental health services is that child getting? When I was in 6th grade, the counselor called me in and was very aggressive and said, you know what, you know where your grades are? You're going to be retained again. In a matter of about 4 months, I was hospitalized. I'd stopped eating. My world was crumbling. I said, I can't deal with this. I couldn't imagine being retained again. Because the second year I did 4th grade, what's the first thing the teacher said the first day of 4th grade the second time? Weren't you retained last year? Oh, geez, I'd forgotten about that. Glad you reminded me.